Hello, welcome to my channel and welcome to another true crime video. This one isn't as sad as the other ones, but it is pretty crazy, so I'm splitting it into two parts. Today is going to be part 1. I'm going to post part 2 on Wednesday, so check that out if you like this. So I first heard about this case from watching the HBO documentary, The Jinx. If you haven't seen that, I definitely recommend watching it. It's a really good documentary. But if you don't have time or you don't have access to it, no worries. I will go ahead and fill you in less than 20 minutes. So Robert Durst was born into a life of privilege. He was the son of Seymour Durst. The Durst family is this incredibly wealthy family in New York who owns all these high-rises. They're a real estate tycoon family. So that's how he got his start. Robert Durst apparently had a hard time growing up. According to him, he witnessed his mom jump from a balcony to her death, committing suicide. And he saw that because his father made him watch it. His brother would later say that this never happened, so who really knows? Robert had a lot of sibling rivalry with his brother Douglas, to the point where his parents sent him to a psychiatrist where they diagnosed him with a decaying personality disorder, perhaps even schizophrenia. In high school, people described Durst as a loner and kind of odd. He went to college at Lehigh University and later to UCLA for a doctorate program, which he did not finish. In the fall of 1971, Robert met Cathy McCormick, who would later become his wife. After only 2 dates, he asked her to move in with him at this house in Vermont that he owned at the time because he was running a health food store.
I was living on East 52nd Street on the 2nd floor, and Cathy was living on the 3rd floor, and Bob owned the building. He used to come and collect the rent.
Cathy was Cathy McCormick, Stewart's young and beautiful upstairs neighbor.
He was like Prince Charming and the princess. Cathy was the love of his life.
The Altmans attended their wedding, and then, a few years later, watched their prince and princess grow apart.
She became more independent. It wasn't the fairy tale anymore.
No. In fact, Cathy's brother Jim told us it was more like a horror movie.
There's a dark side of Bob that, was fairly well camouflaged when they were first, going out, getting married. But it escalated ultimately into psychological abuse, economic abuse, and physical abuse.
Remember that doctor's letter warning that the 10-year-old Bob suffered from severe hostility issues? Cathy gave a copy to her friends, including Ellen Strauss. Evidence, she said, just in case.
Cathy warned all of us that if anything ever happened, look to Bob. Bob did it. Don't let him get away with it.
Anyway, in 1973, to make a long story short, Cathy disappeared forever. Cathy went to dinner at a friend's house and she seemed really upset, according to a friend. She was supposed to meet another friend later that night downtown Manhattan for drinks. First she came home to Robert though, and he was the last person to actually see her. He claimed she was drunk and they argued a lot, but eventually he saw her get on the train and he just never saw her again. Because of that family's wealth and privilege at that time, nothing was done about this. Plus, there was no real direct evidence linking him to this.
To some degree by his family resources.
By his money. By his money. $100 million. Cathy's family was no match for a billionaire.
Absolutely not. But Nancy, it's not just money. It's the political power and the influence. Guarantee you that Seymour Durst could pick up a phone during that time when Cathy went missing and literally call up Mayor Koch, and Mayor Koch would answer the phone.
So that case remained cold until 1999, when Jeanine Pirro, the DA of New York at that time, reopened the case. You might have heard that name in the news recently.
Left the stage, going downstairs, and I saw her, and I had to walk by her, and I said, Whoopi, I fought for victims my whole life, something like that, and she started cursing at me.
What did she say? Tell everybody what she said without saying it.
She said,
blank you.
F you. F you. And I said, Whoopi, did you just say F you? I mean, she was right here. And then she said, get the F out of this building.
That Jeanine Pirro, the one with her own show on Fox. She had a TV show during the day before that. She was shortlisted to run the Supreme Court. I really can't make this stuff up. She reopened the case because she wanted to bring closure to the family.
Sure, Jan.
So after Jeanine Pirro opened this case, Robert Durst kind of became uncomfortable with all the attention that became refocused on him after this disappearance. Fast forward to 2001, he was living in Galveston, Texas, as a mute woman.
To keep himself hidden, as he told his friends, the Altmans.
Nobody would be looking for a Robert Durst in a $300 a month apartment under an assumed name.
The name of an old high school classmate named Dorothy Siner. Although, in his log he wrote he didn't like wearing a wig. It itched, it got in my eyes, unless it was on tight, which made my head sweat. But the version Bob has told over the years believes author Matt Birkbeck doesn't tell the real story.
Blending right in with the local LGBT community. Or was he?
So we'd skulk around all the gay bars and hang out, and nobody knew what his deal was.
Those in the LGBT community tell me Durst became known as the ugliest drag queen on the island.
I mean, it was like blue eyeshadow and some red lipstick, and that was it. I called it a day.
That's Claire Schuler, better known as CC Ryder. She's been wowing crowds as a female impersonator in Galveston for over 20 years. She was the one Durst attached himself to.
I was very intrigued about makeup.
To learn how to be a lady.
Makeup tips, and he used to give me $20 tips.
Schuler says Durst, a.k.a. Dorothy, wanted help.
And he wanted to know what dress to wear, how it conforms, and to your figure, your shape. Do you wear hip pads or butt pads, or what do you use for bosoms? Because he really wanted to pass as a real woman.
Schuler tells me Durst wasn't a larger-than-life cross-dresser. He was very quiet, private, and actually ran from cameras.
If people would walk up and say, hey, Cece, let's get a picture of, when he was dressed up as a woman, take a picture of it. No, he said, no pictures.
Schuler paints the picture of a shy, curious businesswoman. Schuler says all the other, quote, queens knew Dorothy was the wealthiest among them.
Business suits, whatnot, nice dresses. I mean, he had the top of the line.
There's all kinds of bizarre stories about what happened there. There's stories of him hanging around a soup kitchen. Remember, this guy's worth millions of dollars and all this kind of stuff. In 2000, the body of his neighbor, Morris Black, the dismembered body of his neighbor, Morris Black, showed up in the Galveston Bay, the waters of the Galveston Bay. All the body parts were found except for the head. So, Robert Durst was arrested for this. He made bail, and then he fled and didn't attend further hearings. He's eventually caught in Pennsylvania trying to steal a $7 sandwich. So, bad way to reinforce Jewish stereotypes. I'm just saying. But, I'm kidding. So, Durst had all the money in the world to hire the best attorneys he could to beat this case. The best attorneys in Texas, certainly, possibly in the world. And what they did was claim that this case was a case of self-defense. Robert literally took the stand and said, "I did not kill my best friend, but I did dismember him." The body was cut in such a way that it looked like a surgeon or someone who had cut a body before had done it. Yet, since there was no head, it was kind of Durst's story against the states, and Durst said that, Morris was this cranky, mean old man, and that he attacked him one day with a scuffle over a gun, and then the gun just accidentally went off and the guy died. And because of everything that was happening with Jeanine Pirro, he was just scared of what might have had happened, so he cut up the body and tossed it away. And the jury...
Will the jury find the defendant, Robert Durst, not guilty?
Not guilty.
Yeah. I wonder if the jury feels stupid today, especially with what I'm about to tell you. So, let's go back a year before this thing with Morris Black even happened. Another good friend of Robert Durst, Susan Berman, was killed on December 24th of 2000. She was shot in the back of her head, execution style, inside her home in Los Angeles. Someone sent the police a note with her address on it. They spelled Beverly and Beverly Hills wrong, and they just wrote cadaver inside, meaning whoever it was that killed her didn't want her body to rot, and they wanted it to be found and all that stuff. Now, this Berman lady was connected to the mob. She came from a mob family.
My father's only skill was gambling, so he went to the Twin Cities, and that time it was wide open, even though the police were paid off. This was the end of the 30s, the early 40s, and he ran Minneapolis for many years, and he was very, very good about it, and good at it.
So at first there wasn't a lot of suspicion on Durst. Later it was discovered that she was trying to make it as a screenplay writer in Hollywood, which is hard, and she was on hard times and asking a lot of people for money. She got quite a bit of money from Durst. No one knows why. It could just be a gift, but the theory is that she knew too much, or he didn't want to pay her anymore, and so that's why she was killed. But there was no way to prove this until The Jinx. The Jinx was a follow-up to the All Good Things movie, and Robert's lawyers did not want him to have anything to do with it. Nothing. The film crew didn't even reach out to him. Robert reached out to the film crew and said he wanted to tell his side of the story and be on there. And that was a mistake. Because on the finale, Durst is confronted with two letters, one being the letter he wrote to the police, and the other being another letter he wrote in which Beverly was written the same way and misspelled the same way. And check out what happened next.
After being confronted with the new evidence, Durst took a trip to the bathroom and, apparently oblivious to the fact that he was still wired, said this.
There it is. You're caught. What the hell did I do? Kill them all. Of course.
If you're like me, you're probably wondering what happened after that. And that's a good question. A lot happened, and I will tell you all about this in part 2 on Wednesday. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a good day, and peace.
I'm a sociopath, a serial killer on a warpath, 'cause I love you just a little too much.